This is the story about the Hamar tribe. We are witness to an unfolding drama as two men are tested with life-changing challenges. Events at the very heart of Hamar culture. A boy faces the rites of passage to manhood. He must prove himself worthy by a feat of strength and daring. The other, a man, must put his father's uneasy spirit to rest 5 years after he died. The Hamar live in southern Ethiopia. Their land borders on the Omo River. There are about 40,000 people with their own language and ceremonies. There are a few villages scattered throughout their land, where at weekly markets people meet, sell and exchange produce, and gossip. They are a pastoral people whose wealth is in their cattle and goats. Each man has 2 herds, one far away searching out good grazing, the other at home to supply milk, blood and meat for the family. They grow sorghum and corn, which the women process into their staple food. Berkey milks his father's cows, lives in his father's house. This, despite his father Suri having died 5 years ago. Berkey has little to call his own, other than his wife and children. Berkey's wife Aiki grinds sorghum daily to produce flour. Berkey still lives in the shadow of his father. Though dead, he is still an ever-present force in Berkey's day-to-day decisions. In fact, his father still controls his life. It was only Suri's earthly body that ceased to be 5 years ago. In every other sense, he stayed alive. His presence is all around, and he must be consulted on all issues. It is only now, when elders, family and friends agree that Suri's presence has dimmed sufficiently, that this funeral can take place. So tonight, the ceremony starts. It's a long, complicated event that has to be done according to tradition. Berkey will inherit at the end, and if the ceremony is successful, his father's spirit will leave them. If he fails, then his father's spirit will stay and can hurt or kill a member of the family. For Berkey, the ceremony is fraught with danger. Amar is Berkey's sister, a leading mourner. She'll stay for the 3 days as they mourn and say goodbye to Suri. A 150 family and friends will come together. Berkey will feed all and provide a fermented brew for them to drink. They recall a wise man, a highly respected elder, a warrior who fought local tribes. He was successful capturing cattle in raids. He is loved, especially by his daughter Amma. As dawn breaks, they're still singing. Suri's spirit is still among them. It's sad and lonely because it wants to cross the Omo River to join all the other spirits. Berkey must make very specific sacrifices for this to happen. Success and Berkey's a free man. Failure and the family is in peril. This small hut has been erected in the compound of their home to house a stone from the grave. This stone represents Suri. It's dressed and placed with some of Suri's prized possessions. Berkey's sister Amma remembers her father.
I'm married, but
isa imbo tayo inindong isa inindor ko isa ang tayo takisi diap pirgesho diap dakin nasin dakin burkada kasin dakin isa mase aku ul fay lagi dono agasra mali rakos oh kana.
In another distant homestead, a different ceremony is about to take place. Gele Turga is 17. Tomorrow he'll become a man. Gele has waited for his father to have a good harvest to fund this very expensive ceremony. His sisters and female cousins are first to arrive and are already in a state of high excitement. Gele's male cousins are collecting blood for the ceremony. They collect it by firing an arrow into the jugular vein of a cow or ox. Blood's part of the Hamar diet. Today they'll collect for 200 people who'll be here for this ceremony, perhaps the most important in Hamar culture because it opens the way for marriage. Hamar girls are married very young, often before they're 13.
They're going to shake.
Tomorrow, as custom dictates, Gele's sisters and female cousins will offer themselves to Gele's peers to be whipped. Alga, one of his sisters, tells why they volunteer their bodies. The day before the Okuli, there's a lot to do. Gele's father has invited more than 200 people, family and friends, to come and drink and watch Gele tested in this Okuli celebration. His mother brings local beer, whilst one of his sisters sings. Next day, the day of the Okuli, Gele comes home. Gele will become what's known as a maza, a young man deemed to be ready to marry. Every Hamar male must go through the stage. Maza is a society of young men. Like all societies, there are rules and privileges. Mazas don't work. If there is a war, they don't fight. Mazas are fed wherever they turn up, a perfect life for a teenager. However, they can only drink blood and milk and eat honey and meat. They can't have sorghum, the Hamar's main food, or alcohol. A maza ends his membership when he marries and has to take on responsibilities. This maza will be Gele's guardian. He has to be like a mother to Gele, making sure he's well fed and looking after his welfare as long as Gele's a maza. In preparation for Gele's ukuli, the maza cut long straight switches. They remove the offshoots and bend them to make them supple. The girls appear again, teasing them and demanding to be whipped. The Hamar girls, many of them married, are close relations of Geli. They put themselves through this very painful ordeal as a thank you to him. They suffer, hiding their pain, asking to be whipped again and again. All Hamar women bear the scars from this whipping as long as they live. Alga, Gele's sister, was particularly brave and must have suffered a lot. But at the funeral, Berkey's got his own troubles pleasing the elders. We have seen girls whipped for Gele's manhood celebrations, and Berkey conducting his father's funeral 5 years after he died. But for Berkey, there's trouble ahead. Berkey has been building his goat herd for 4.5 years. The harvest's good, so there's food. Berkey can't postpone the ceremony, though he knows the goats he will slaughter are too small. There have been murmurings that the goats are little more than kids. Today, the dead man's friends and neighbours are joining the family to drink, eat goat meat, sing, and say their goodbyes. They have a ceremonial role. Berkey presents the goats to be slaughtered, and they judge their quality. Now the elders are united. Berkey's worst nightmares are about to come true. On behalf of Berkey's dead father, Suri, they refuse Berkey's small goats. Refusal means the funeral will pause, and Berkey's reputation's on the line. Then a friend steps forward to try and defend Berkey. Berkey brings more goats. How many he doesn't know, because the Hamar can't count cattle or goats, because evil counts with them and will surely take some away. The women keep the local beer flowing. Many goats are killed. The question is, will they feed 120 hungry people? If he is judged a failure, Berkey could be refused promotion to respected elder status. And even worse, Suri's spirit might not leave them and cross the Omo River. And the jury's out. The women dance, stamping on the cowhide that belonged to Suri, to drive his spirit out and away. A tense time for Berkey. The senior elders are still unhappy with the size of the goats he has provided. Now the goats have been eaten, stomachs aren't full, and elders aggressive with drink are still murmuring. A defence comes with after-dinner speeches.
Ya pirkeda. Mana da oytaisi. Edamu pir ikameada. Kidi mana oysat. Mana oysak ni edekom badi. Taki ya galam Afrika ai kirnana kotini na me yasa qole qola yasa ami qola asa quti qola.
His friend makes a strong defense. Berkey has just slaughtered more goats than he can afford. But next day, as Berkey prepares to perform the last rites for his father, there is still a question mark over the quality of the whole ceremony. The stone representing Berkey's father Suri starts the journey to its final resting place. Here, stones from all the dead of the clan are carefully piled. Respected elders are here to make sure that everything is done correctly. There's a lot more resting on this ceremony than Berkey's status. He has to send Suri's spirit across the Omo River. From there, the spirit can't harm any of the family, and there it will join other ancestors who inhabit that place and be content. If the ceremony fails, then the spirit will not cross the Omo and will be a continuing danger to life, happiness, and the prosperity of the family.
Selling lele kinka way sekita budonte kidi adab ya chowa adam bersab. Ada agak tahu. Kamu kesini. Shide. Yer doki zaman nabiat ugro. Shida yan nabere terir edobs. Nabe. Asa kaya. Bangku anu korea yana kasih dono. Kalle kala.
Berkey doesn't know what to do, so the elders are able to behave badly, treating him like an idiot. And Berkey is forced to pander to them.
Alum, inte, ya wala kan ka ba na ya ha ba baisa ya da ba gujun nana in bidiket ya onai ba jiki ya orne kada ma gudun ko so tambula ergan ki ba garabo ma gudun ake amma tara na sine imatini finan زي أنا ماشي مساكين.
The Duki ceremony has had to wait until there was general agreement that the time's right. It's 5 years since Berkey buried the earthly remains of his father, and now it's time for the spirit to leave them. At this moment, Berkey inherits from his father, and it's time for the spirit to leave. The Duki has been completed, and Berkey is at last in control of his destiny. Or almost. The elders have been hard on him, so there's a nagging doubt in Berkey's mind. Has the spirit really gone across the Omo River? If not, there may be trouble ahead. Berkey's sister Amma is at home now guarding her brother-in-law's crop in return for his support.
كده أقدر لي ما يسوي ودا
Her husband died more than 7 years ago. Her father stepped in to help her, but his death exposed her to increasing poverty. She should perform a duki for her husband. This leaves her vulnerable to harm from his spirit, which cannot be released to cross the river Omo. Berkey has completed the funeral. Geli's sisters and cousins have been whipped for him. But now it's time for Geli to perform. At Geli's Ukuli celebration, his father passes out some strong alcohol to stop tired bodies from fading. All family and friends and neighbours are here to join the celebrations, to eat, drink, dance and sing. Meanwhile, the men get a war dance underway. The Hamar have been at war with most of the neighbouring tribes throughout remembered history, raiding cattle and fighting. The men sing and dance about war and their prize oxen, whereas the married women sing about matters much more intimate, sex. By late afternoon, Geli starts preparing for the main event of his ukuli. But first he must go through another short ceremony, where the Maza blessing confers many children on him. They use a phallus and dip it in yogurt. That completed, the phallus is hidden in the archway, which will be used later to bless everyone. Returning to Berkey, Berkey inherited his father's house at the moment when he touched the stone. It's his, and after today he will never mention his father's name again, never think of him. So now, as head of the household, he can at last perform the blessing called Bajo Allah at home.
Isa indaki mati inda iya ada kota hanin qacay sinjaba isama imba iya wazin takhais iya gettay ta ko makra kamsay aya disigi mati ochin iya suusa disigi mati Inga kide, isin kide. Nagaya kudi, kaya kudi. Turku kudi. Nagaya kudi, inga kuru nagaya kudi. Nashatu kudi, nagaya kudi, kaya kudi, turku kudi, kaya kudi.
This blessing is the means by which Hamar men cause the continued well-being of nature and culture. Without it, society and nature would disintegrate.
Nagaya kudi, isingo samaka, amba isa samaka. Nagaya.
Tomorrow, Berkey will know if the family's safe from his father's spirit. But tonight, he needs some action, and collecting honey is always fraught with a little danger. The hives are wedged high in trees to protect them from predators, so Berkey has to climb. Collections are made by men in the evening, and in common with beekeepers everywhere, Berkey calms the bees with smoke. Tomorrow's a big day for Berkey. He'll find out if the Dookie was successful in sending his father's spirit away. Berkey consults a man with the title Mawara. This man uses his special powers to answer questions posed. The elders were not at all sympathetic to him during the ceremony, and there were errors like allowing the goat to cry out as it was slaughtered. If the spirit is gone, all is well. If not, there will be penalties and a lot more goats to sacrifice. Next day, the waiting's over. Consultations are about to begin. Sandals are to be thrown. These sandals are small triangular pieces of leather that a man called the Mawara throws. Now the Mawara asks a series of questions, and the orientation of the sandals provides answers. Elders are here as witnesses. Berkey has inherited from his father, but is he free to enjoy his newfound status? Or is the spirit of his father still lurking, waiting to strike him down? The answer is slowly emerging. The Mawara throws and throws, and eventually he has the answer.
Dungurul paya ta bilone a machidi ak dunguru wadi kinka kanada mora ak kanidi dunguru college ang alirsia dan da sianemba yal idil nagaya udil nagaya kore dunguru ak kinka kandaini.
Great relief for Berkey. He is now a respected elder. No one will ever tell him how to perform a dookie again. Returning a little later to the Ukuli celebration, where the boy Geli will have to prove himself, he has to succeed in order to become a Maza. And he has to become a Maza in order to marry. If Geli fails, he will be a social outcast. Naturally, very few fail, but despite that, it's a really fearsome ordeal in front of a big crowd. 300 people, extended family, friends, and neighbours. The Maza select cattle who are wild and are confused by the noise and the people circling round and round. Naked, Geli must jump up and run across the backs of a dozen oxen to show that he is ready to become a Maza. This is Geli's day, and these are the most important 2 minutes of his life. Now for the second run. After a stumble, Geli has to turn and run again. He's down. But he's okay. Geli gathers himself. He has 2 more runs to do. Last run. A triumphant finish. Geli is a Maza with all the rights and privileges of that group. Now both Geli and Berkey have something to celebrate. Berkey has finished the ritual of his father's funeral and can now enjoy life. Geli Turga has run over the backs of a dozen oxen, proving that he is ready to be a man. After singing his thanks to his father, Geli will sing about his father's special ox. Every Hamar man has a special ox, and he sings about it at celebrations. To be special, the horn is twisted like this. A skilled man like Chinumba hits the horn with a smooth stone, loosening it from the animal's skull. He bends it and holds it in the new position with a thong. They do this to effect a decoration. The serrated ear is another decoration done sometime earlier. Once decorated, an animal is venerated and specially cared for, and the owner will sing about his special ox at all celebrations. One day, the ox will look like this. The last event of the ukuli is Geli's blessing from his uncles. The solemnity of the occasion is broken for a moment as Geli fights for branches. The number he gets will equal the number of cattle he will have. The branches are placed above the gate, and at the very end, Geli's father blesses the guests as they pass through the gate and out of the compound. A new, confident Berkey at last enjoys the company of these respected elders, now that he is one of them himself. And this opens a new era for him.
Ya, karen be ake pugaisi. Pugaisi. Jadi pugaisa. Faya. Faya.
Faya no karim kodar kulaini. Kuni. Ni ana edu ko bashe. Bashe no ko barze. Yana da zindera har koya kwambe ulba ukaye ko kaye ulba gibrenga ko iye wana nana budo dama nana budo shetu ko iye erseda uliko tote wako tote ko tote
Kasa loko. Birana ime yan makoti makamakoti ente madafi jarmo. Oti Yun na pakala ni ma. Pakala.
Na.
Wadda yan ka.
Ay kala dasa.
Kala na tikidi tidiror oyun kamun daran nidi.
Agala kain ko.
Ay no kunsi. Agar ora puchkingia.
Ay kala dasa.
Meanwhile, Berkey, his father's funeral now finished, can join his family. The boy's protecting the crop with his sling. The Berkey family are all out at their field camp, where they can watch over their ripening maize and enjoy a lazy day after all their activity. For 3 months before the funeral, Berkey wore no adornments and let his hair go. The hairdresser mixes the clay he'll use to transform Berkey. Berkey's mother-in-law turns up. She is a mystic, a fortune-teller with a fearsome reputation. She's come to see one of Berkey's daughters, who has an unexplained malady. The old lady blames Berkey for the child's illness.
Dorin wadima ne ben yesa anamu gantu yera deka ana wurto en sai yayin ne turso nano ya ba wadima pata oi to dam ka in tana ya jai dabina na ni nan da an kasa kanidiyati yake uka dam akan rasibat.
While she applies butter used in blessings and says her healing words, an old man asks for a reading.
Bisa kamu hasil kata
Aki ada demi edit. Aki enak Ziana baca nggak Ziana apa ini kalau? Tegaling dia rekaman na warkatun. Biar matunya dia. Agak be tu tapi agak tu wan isin na tapa dia bi. Amul aku ya sisa. Dega. Pani kata mu uci. Siya walay. Ali. Anjaga nasi jaramanti.
Isa wa payati. Wa ja payati. Kullar sa dabino tasa. Lai aita ute isa dabi itikaya bis yitikaya bis. Ndaga mi shira dara inu shidai.
Agak ini angka India bersama.
Pagi juga ada.
Now that the hairdresser's completed his work on Berkey, it's the turn of the artist. Gele has joined his peers, is a Maza with no responsibilities. But he aims to change all that, and Berkey, freed from his father's spirit, is transformed. The hairdo completed, and it took 4 hours. Berkey finishes off with some artwork. The corn's ready, so the harvest can begin. The rains were good, it will be an excellent crop. For Berkey, everything's perfect. While Berkey preens himself, his wife, Ike, works at the daily chore, grinding 3 hours a day to make sorghum flour for the family. As she grinds, she sings. Berkey's collecting corn. It's the first harvest he can call his own. His father, no longer a threat, is forgotten, not discussed. Berkey's coming into his own.
Ina fayane. Ina king adon fayane.
As a Maza, Gele's not allowed to enter his parents' house, so they've built this annex for him. But the life of idleness doesn't suit him. Gele wants to marry and become an elder. He can then build his own house, farm of his own land, and get on with his life. And his mother is pushing things forward for him.
Otin kiti suka mata. Amin ina koya mata. Amin ka anam makina. Amin ulidi. Amin koya. Otin suka sa wakin kamakam. Amin ka kidi uladai ama kemadai ama siguri kin ikaldenka ina ka oilam isa agadi. Take da kin bulap man ken sap en oilam sadas. Imba sa takula indan dia saka imba na kamaditi gunung kaisi galam bakaisi parsin shabais imba na amin ko sen kudin.
A month after becoming a Maza, Gele's father agreed to an early wedding. So the wedding party, led by a highly respected elder, takes the party to negotiate with the bride-to-be's family. Gele's father will have to pay about 50 cattle, 70 kilos of honey, and maybe a Kalashnikov for the bride. Though there'll be hard, protracted negotiations, in the end they'll have to agree. With the koli stick stuck through the thatch in the doorway, the door is symbolically closed, preventing the girl's father from leaving the compound until there's an agreement. The man in blue and yellow is the girl's father. There are problems with the total payment. It is not enough. Also with the timetable of installments. So it's time to bring Gele's father in to make a binding agreement. Caro, the bride-to-be, is not yet 13. She looks after her father, cooking, fetching firewood and water, and grinding sorghum. Her uncle stands here, wants his share, and is prepared to stop the marriage if he doesn't get it. So finally, the price they pay is agreed. The uncle is satisfied, so the wedding can take place. This simple ceremony is the marriage of Gele Turga and Caro Mude. They will not live together until Gele's built a house and Caro's old enough to leave home. They drink honey together, and the senior elder winds Gele's strip of deerskin round her neck. They are now married. Marriage makes Gele a junior elder, no more the life of idleness. He can now get on with the work of making a home and building his life. Gele's father is buying Cara and paying a great deal for her. This practice leaves women in a weak position. Hamar wives have few rights, but 5 women were brave enough to talk well away from men.
Dais inno ke me os kisil inter. Dais inno wasa yer kole. Wasi ma warshone wasa yer kole. Inna kulla inna wanga inno isin. Amba wasi ta guro dad. Lo de. Arkio. Aka. Berwa ela kamu itu ya kina wasi sirai ana baha wasa aina sakaya sai bil itu wada kina ana gira ana gara ya damba amati ya
The Hamar celebrate harvest time with nightly dances. Berkey is now centre stage with a newfound confidence, a man to be reckoned with. Taking little more than t-shirts and medicine from the West, the Hamar people are vigorously holding on to their own culture and traditions.
Yeah,